Titan is Saturn's largest moon. It's also the second largest moon in the solar system, after Jupiter and Ganymede. And it's the only moon with clouds and a dense planet-like atmosphere. But the coolest thing? This moon might help us understand how life appeared on Earth, and for us to understand whether you like such videos or not. Please put a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support is important to us. Thank you. Astronomers say that the conditions on Titan might be almost the same as those on Earth in its early years. The only significant difference is that, being closer to the Sun, Earth has always been warmer. Titan is surrounded by an orange haze, which had kept the moon's surface a mystery for astronomers up until 2004. That's when the Cassini mission arrived there. Now we know that Titan's atmosphere extends about 370 miles high. That's a lot higher than the atmosphere of our planet. Because of this atmosphere, Titan was believed to be the largest moon in the solar system for a long time. But the most exciting fact about Titan's atmosphere is that it's full of organic compounds. If they were discovered on our planet, they would definitely mean life. Now, the atmosphere of Titan is mostly nitrogen mixed with a bit of methane and other organic compounds, which form when sunlight destroys methane. But if sunlight keeps destroying methane, how does this gas appear in the atmosphere again and again? On Earth, it's life itself that restores the supply of methane, since it's a byproduct of the metabolism of many organisms. So, can we conclude there's life on Titan? This distant moon isn't the most pleasant place to settle down. It's too cold for liquid water to exist on its surface. And still, Titan has rivers, seas, and lakes of liquid hydrocarbons, such as methane and ethane. The largest of them are hundreds of feet deep and hundreds of miles wide. Beneath the thick crust of the moon, there is a more liquid ocean consisting primarily of water rather than methane. After a series of laboratory simulations, scientists concluded that there might be enough organic material on Titan for a chemical evolution to begin. It could be similar to the one that started life on Earth. But for that to happen, there must be liquid water on the moon for longer periods of time than what we observe now. And still, it might be another proof supporting the idea of a liquid water ocean under the frozen isolation layer. If it was true, Titan's subsurface ocean could turn out to be a place harboring life as we know it. Meanwhile, its lakes and seas of liquid hydrocarbons could have forms of life with different chemistry than what we're used to. Or there may be no life at all. After all, the temperature on the surface of Saturn's moon is about 290 AF. These conditions are far from comfortable for almost any life form. According to one theory, a meteorite impact that occurred a long time ago could have provided enough heat to liquefy water for around a few hundred or thousand years. But right now, most experts think that Titan isn't likely to be a place where life thrives, which makes the presence of methane in the moon's atmosphere even more puzzling. Interestingly, Titan might become warmer in the future. You see, 5 to 6 billion years from now, the sun will become a red giant. It will heat up most space objects in our solar system, and Titan will become warmer, 94 AF. This temperature is high enough for stable oceans of a water-ammonia mixture to exist on its surface. With time, the sun's ultraviolet output will decrease, which will enable the greenhouse effect in Titan's upper atmosphere. The combination of these conditions might exist for several 100 million years, creating an environment suitable for the appearance of exotic forms of life. After all, this time was enough for life to evolve on Earth. The only thing that might hinder the process on Titan could be the presence of ammonia. It's likely to cause the same chemical reactions to proceed more slowly.
An exoplanet is any planet inside our solar system. Some of them are free-floating. Those are called rogue planets. They move around the galactic center. Others orbit their host star, or two. For the first time, astronomers discovered exoplanets in the 1990s. Since then, scientists have found thousands of them. And now, you can sneak a peek too. Spoiler alert, some exoplanets are pretty bizarre. Others resemble our home planet and could probably support life. The closest to Earth exoplanet is Proxima Centauri b. It's a mere 4.2 light-years away from Earth. Recently, astronomers have found out that this world might resemble Earth even more than previously thought. It's only 17% more massive than our home planet. It orbits a star that is dimmer and less massive than the Sun. Proxima Centauri b is in the middle of the star's habitable zone. This means that chances are liquid water and life might exist on the planet. It looks like the exoplanet is tidally locked with its parent star. This means one of its sides faces the star at all times, and the other is always in the darkness. Scientists haven't figured out yet whether the planet has an atmosphere. It's traveling too close to its star and completes one orbit within 11 Earth days. The radiation from the star might be pulling the planet's air away. If this is the case, Proxima Centauri b isn't likely to have liquid water on its surface. Gliese 832c is 16 light-years away from Earth. In the cosmic scheme of things, it's a stone's throw away. This exoplanet is 5 times as massive as Earth and travels much closer to its parent star. That's why a year on this planet lasts a mere 36 days. But since this star is a red dwarf, much cooler and dimmer than the Sun, Gliese 832c gets as much light and heat as our planet does. At the same time, it's still unclear if Gliese 832c is similar to Earth. It probably has a much thicker atmosphere that creates a runaway greenhouse effect. This phenomenon occurs when a planet absorbs more heat from its host star than it can release back into space. This means that Gliese 832c is more likely to resemble scorching hot Venus rather than relatively cool Earth. Another Earth-like planet, TOI 700d, is 100 light-years away from us in the constellation Dorado. It orbits a small and rather cool dwarf star that is about 40% of the mass and size of the Sun. Its surface temperature is half as high as that of our star. The outermost planet, which is the very TOI 700d, is almost the size of Earth. It also sits in the habitable zone of its parent star. No flares from TOI 700 reach the planet. This increases the chances of the exoplanet being habitable. This means it can potentially develop and maintain life. Scientists don't know for sure the exact conditions on the surface of the planet, but one of the computer simulations they've created shows a planet covered with an ocean. It has a very dense atmosphere dominated by carbon dioxide. Astronomers think a similar atmosphere surrounded Mars when it was a young planet. But another 3D model shows TOI 700d as an all-land, cloudless world. That's what our Earth would probably look like if it wasn't covered with oceans. Winds on TOI 700d move away from the night side of the planet and meet in the area that directly faces the star. There is an exoplanet that stands out among the rest because of its awesome magenta color. You can find this world in the Virgo constellation. The planet is called Gliese 504b. The distance between this planet and its parent star is 9 times the distance between the Sun and Jupiter. The planet formed relatively recently and is still glowing with heat. That's why its surface looks pinkish. Just 20 light-years away from the Sun, which isn't such a great distance when we talk about space, a bizarre rogue planet is roaming our home Milky Way galaxy. But even though this planet doesn't orbit any star, it still has an incredibly powerful magnetic field. It's 4 million times stronger than Earth's magnetic field. The exoplanet also produces amazing auroras. When it was discovered in 2016, astronomers were almost sure they had detected a brown dwarf, which is an object too large to be a planet and too small to be a star. But later, scientists received proof that the space object wasn't big enough to be a brown dwarf. The planet sure is a mammoth among its peers. It's 1.2 times as wide as the largest planet of the solar system, Jupiter, and more than 12 times as heavy. Astronomers think the exceptional strong magnetic field helps the planet produce the auroras. But the most curious thing is that they're generated in a different way than auroras on Earth. It might be because the exoplanet's moon helps the planet create these light shows. If you traveled 20,000 light-years away from Earth, you'd come close to a red dwarf in the Sagittarius constellation. Such stars are very cool and small. Quite far away from this cold star, there's a planet. The distance between this world and its host star is so great that the planet receives very little heat. It's one of the coldest planets ever detected. The average surface temperature on the planet is lower than -360 degrees Fahrenheit. That's why the entire planet is covered with a thick layer of ice. If you stepped onto its surface, you'd see nothing but glaciers, plains, and mountains of ice. And still, astronomers claim life might exist deep beneath the frozen surface. All because the core of the planet is likely to generate enough heat to melt some of its inner ice. In this case, there would be an enormous subsurface ocean, maybe even swarming with bizarre life forms on the planet. One of the oldest exoplanets we know about is PCR B162026b. It's about 12.7 billion years old. It's almost 3 times as old as Earth, which appeared 4.5 billion years ago. This also means that the Genesis planet formed only about 1 billion years after the Big Bang. The planet is so old that its 2 parent stars have had enough time to evolve into a white dwarf and a pulsar, making almost 100 revolutions per second. Sunrises on this planet must look awesome. I bet the next exoplanet isn't like any other you might have seen before. It's often called Super Saturn or Saturn on steroids. That's because J1407b has a colossal system of rings. They're 640 times as large as those of Saturn. The bizarre world is 434 light-years away from Earth. It's the only planet we know about that has rings similar to Saturn's. If you moved J1407b to our solar system and replaced Saturn with it, its rings would look many times larger than a full moon. Astronomers have noticed a gap halfway through the planet's rings. The chances are high that an exomoon the size of Mars orbits the planet somewhere within this gap. If you lived on this moon, you'd have an awesome view every time you looked up into the sky. This exoplanet, called WASP-12b, munches on the light coming from its star. It's one of the darkest worlds people know about. All because its day side consumes light rather than reflects it back into space. The planet is giant, twice the size of Jupiter, and it traps more than 94% of the light that reaches its atmosphere. This is likely to be the main reason for the insane temperatures on the surface of the planet. They can rise up to 4,600 degrees Fahrenheit. It's almost half as hot as the surface of the Sun. WASP-12b travels so close to its host star that it needs just 1 day to complete one orbit. Its night side isn't as hot as the day side, a mere 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. Because of this difference in temperature, water vapor and clouds gather above the surface of the planet. From time to time, swirls of material from the planet's superheated atmosphere spill onto its star. About 4,000 light-years away from Earth, there's an exoplanet that might be one enormous diamond. It's 5 times the size of our planet, but needs only 2 hours and 10 minutes to orbit its parent star. It's a pulsar rotating at a rate of 10,000 times a minute. The planet is denser than any other we've discovered so far. It consists mostly of carbon, which is so dense that astronomers think it might be crystalline. If it was true, it could mean that at least some part of the planet is diamond. On WASP-76b, it rains iron on the night side of the planet, and the temperature on the daytime side rises up to 4,300 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to vaporize most metals. This exoplanet is a bit smaller than Jupiter and located 640 light-years away from Earth. Such terrifying weather conditions in this world are caused by its unusual orbit. The distance between WASP-76b and its parent star is 10 times shorter than the distance between Mercury and the Sun. That's why the star and the huge planet are tidally locked. One side of WASP-76b always faces the star, and the other side is always pitch black. This bright blue exoplanet sits 62 years away from Earth. A bit larger than Jupiter, it looks calm and peaceful. Its blue color might remind you of our home planet. But this familiar appearance conceals the planet's horrifying nature. The beautiful hue comes from silicate atoms and particles that make up the atmosphere. But the wind speed on the planet can reach 5,400 miles per hour. That's 7 times the speed of sound. The temperature there can rise up to 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit. But this isn't the worst. In this bizarre world, it rains glass, sideways. So it's probably not the place where you'd like to spend your vacation.
Mercury, about 3.8 billion years ago. A huge asteroid is about to collide with the planet. Boom! Fragments are flying in different directions, along with the blast wave. When the dust settles, we see a crater almost the size of Lake Ontario. The most interesting thing here is the shape of the crater. It looks like a spider. A round body in the center and a bunch of legs that spread out from the crater in different directions. But the strangest thing is that the spider's legs don't quite line up with the center. Scientists can only guess how such a landscape was formed. Some think that the picture of the spider appeared there much earlier, and the meteorite falling almost into its center was just a coincidence. But we still don't have a clear explanation of how such scars could have appeared on the surface of Mercury. Another mystery about Mercury is how it was born. One theory claims that the planet used to be Venus's moon, but over time, it succumbed to the sun's gravity. The star literally ripped Mercury away, and the little planet began orbiting it. What might prove this theory is the rotation periods of Mercury and Venus. Mercury is gradually losing its rotational speed. One day on this planet now equals 58 Earth days and continues to increase. At the same time, after losing its heavy load, Venus has started rotating a little faster. Another theory says that Mercury collided with Venus shortly after the appearance of the solar system. At that time, Proto-Mercury was slightly larger than the planet we're familiar with these days. But then, Mercury lost part of its crust after colliding with Venus. And a little later, Venus collected this debris. But scientists still can't come up with a definitive answer as to how Mercury was formed. Uranus, a gas giant, 18 Earth-Sun distances from our home. This planet seems calm compared to other giants, like Jupiter with its Earth-sized storms. And still, Uranus has something unusual to boast about. This dark spot, for example, was detected by the Hubble telescope in 2006. At that time, it was almost twice the size of Alaska. A few years later, bright spots appeared there. It turned out that they were methane clouds that moved across the surface of the planet at a speed of 300 miles per hour. But we don't know what exactly causes such storms on Uranus. Maybe we can solve this secret by looking at another mystery of Uranus. This planet rotates while lying on its side. If you look at the axis of our planet, you'll see that it's vertical and only slightly tilted. It's the same for most of the planets in our solar system, but not Uranus. Its axis is almost horizontal and pointed toward the sun. One of the poles of Uranus is fully illuminated at almost all times. The polar day on the planet lasts for 42 Earth years. When the tilt of Uranus's axis changes, the polar day starts on the other side of the planet. The other pole plunges into darkness for 42 years. This change of seasons can cause severe storms on the planet's surface. But why exactly Uranus lies on its side is unknown. Perhaps billions of years ago, the gas giant collided with several asteroids that were about to become a young planet. Such a protoplanet, similar in size and weight to Earth, could have tilted Uranus after crashing into it. But it's still just a hypothesis. Now let's go to Jupiter's moon, Europa. The big mystery here is whether there is life on this moon. Scientists don't deny such a possibility. All you see on the moon's surface is ice. The stripes you may spot are actually long, wide cracks. For a long time, scientists thought this moon was nothing more than a block of ice. But now, they think there might be liquid water inside. The core of Europa is heated by the tidal forces of Jupiter. This warm core melts the ice around it, so there really could be a huge ocean under the ice crust. Since water is the basis of life, different microorganisms could exist there. But we would only find out if we sent a probe there. We would have to drill through 24 miles of solid ice and start searching in an ocean twice the size of all water reservoirs on Earth. Look at Saturn's moon Titan. It's the second largest moon in the solar system. It's 50% bigger than Earth's natural satellite. It's the only place in our solar system, other than Earth, where liquid water has been proven to exist. But the most interesting thing about Titan is its atmosphere. It's 250 miles thick. This distance is almost 40 times greater than the average cruising altitude of commercial planes on Earth. And it's 95% nitrogen. For comparison, Earth's atmosphere is 79% nitrogen, which means they're quite similar. The mystery is that no one knows how this atmosphere appeared there. One theory suggests that many years ago, meteorites hit Titan's surface almost non-stop. Massive rocks collided with the crust, raising the pressure and temperatures on the moon. Under such conditions, the ammonia in the air decomposed into nitrogen and hydrogen. The heavy nitrogen fell on Titan's surface, while the light hydrogen rose and flowed out into space. But some scientists dispute this theory. Another mystery of the solar system is the hypothetical star Nemesis, and whether it really exists. If you look at all the stars of our galaxy, most of them are paired, which means that two stars orbit around each other. Statistically, the Sun must also have a companion. So, some scientists have made an assumption that the largest mass extinctions on Earth were related to some mysterious object in space. They hypothesized that there was a red dwarf somewhere within 1.5 light-years away from the center of the solar system, and every approach of this dwarf star to the asteroid cloud disturbed these space travelers. Every time it happened, several asteroids began their journey toward Earth and caused a mass extinction. But this star hasn't yet been discovered, and many scientists question this hypothesis. Now let's look at the very edge of the solar system. A photon of light has to travel 1 year to get here. Scientists believe the Oort cloud exists in that area. It's a hypothetical region where tons of asteroids and blocks of ice gather into clouds. It's the furthest place where the sun's gravity still works. Presumably, this spherical cloud wraps around the solar system. This is the region where long-period comets are thought to originate. They fly all the way through the solar system and then return to the Oort cloud. This journey can take thousands of years. Even more exciting, there could be a gas giant called Tyche in that region. Some scientists say it might be 4 times the size of Jupiter. So far, no research has confirmed its existence. Although the Oort cloud is still considered hypothetical, some scientists believe that comets from that area are responsible for the major mass extinctions on Earth. Now let's go beyond the borders of the solar system. There, 1,500 light-years away from Earth, there's the closest to our home planet black hole. Black holes are the most mysterious objects in the universe. They're so heavy that they attract not only matter, but also light. Even more, they slow down time. Once something gets trapped in a black hole's gravity, it never escapes. Light and matter gradually settle near the event horizon and soon disappear into infinite darkness. Time flows differently here. 1 minute near a black hole can be equal to weeks on Earth. The biggest mystery is what exactly is inside a black hole. Some speculate that there's nothing but crushing pressure that destroys anything that gets there. Others say it might be a portal to another dimension or a wormhole to another place in the universe. If it was true, white holes would exist as well, as exits from black hole portals and wormholes. But no white hole has been found so far. Now, how about going to the hypothetical border of the entire universe? It's called the Eridanus supervoid. If you look at the map of the universe, you'll see an empty cold spot about 1 billion light-years wide. The entire Milky Way galaxy is only 100,000 light-years across. The main mystery is how the spot appeared. One theory says this void is the scar left by the collision of 2 parallel universes. Imagine that universes are giant bubbles, and one day, 2 of these bubbles collided. That's when the parallel universe ripped several galaxies out of our bubble. So far, this is the only explanation for how such a huge cold void could appear in our universe.